Hello, man. I want you to know I've been praying for you, asking God to give you strength and not to allow you to lose your courage. You know, the other day I was in a shopping center and I passed two gentlemen going in the store, and then I passed them again coming out. And as I began to talk to one of these gentlemen and share some stories with them, one of them said, "Let me just be honest. That's exactly where I'm at right now." And his friend looked at him and said, "Man, I didn't know you were going through that." He goes, "What am I supposed to do? Who do I tell? I'm a leader in the church. I can't just go around telling people I feel depressed, I feel discouraged, or I feel bad about something. I have no one to talk to." And I thought about us men now in the day and age in which we're living and the things that we're going through. And I grabbed one of my journals. You know, I've kept journals since I was 17. But I grabbed one of my journals and I want to share with you something out of one of my journals. This journal goes, this is in July of 1991. I was 38 years old. And a lot went on in that year, but here's a story. I was the executive director of a statewide prison ministry. It was known as Match 2, and it matched men on the outside with men on the inside for one-on-one visitation, and women on the outside with women on the inside of prison for the same. And the results when these people got out was just incredible. But I got a phone call one day because our contract, probably 70-something% of our money came from the state. And I got a call one day on my way home from work, and it said, "You have lost your contract, and do not try to ask why, or do not try to inquire. You're just not going to get it again. You've lost it." So here I was with a staff of 50 stretched from Blythe to the south and Pelican Bay to the north, a staff of 50, and over 2,000 volunteers visiting inmates throughout our California prison system. I went home that weekend. Mistake number one, I never shared anything with anybody. I just went home, went upstairs in my overstuffed chair, and just sat there and started becoming depressed, and I didn't even know it. And as time progressed, I just got deeper and deeper into a funk. My wife would call my friends and say, "Would you call him and would you come visit him?" Nothing could get me out of that funk. And as time went on, we had to fight 3 years to get this contract back. 3 years. I took 3 pay cuts. When I was getting paid, it was 6 to 8 weeks late. Needless to say, it was a trying and testing time. I've never been through anything like that before in my life. But when I got to the other side of this thing, I wrote some things in this journal that I'm going to read to you. But allow me to read to you a story I wrote. I wrote this story on July the 3rd, 1991. I'm on my way to my mother's house to take my nephew George home. My son Royce is driving. He's 22 years of age. I laid back, and through the sunroof I stared at the stars. Realizing that God knows each one of those stars by name, I said to my son, "Son, if God knows each star by name, do you think he knows what your dad is going through right now?" "Sure, Dad." He looked at me and he was startled. "It's just like when you taught me to swim." And I looked at him and said, "What about it?" I'd forgotten. Later I realized he had forgotten too, but the Spirit of God brought it back to his remembrance because he knew that I needed it. Royce says, "As you held me on top of the water, I was afraid. I could hardly move my arms or kick my feet like you had taught me because I was afraid. I was afraid you'd let me drown. Then you said, 'Son, don't worry. Quit turning and looking at me. Stare straight ahead and do what I told you to do. Move your arms and kick your legs. I'm your father. I won't let you drown.'" And then he looked at me and said, "Dad, God won't let you drown." I want you to know something. God has not run out of miracles. God is still the same yesterday, today, and forever. And he's still the God that said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. And he will not let you drown. He knows exactly what you're going through right now. So when I got on the other side of this thing, as I'm writing down things in my journal, I wrote down these following things, and I'm not going to bore you and share all these things with you, but here's a few things that I wrote down. Through this wilderness experience I've just exited, I've learned the following lessons. And here's the first lesson that I learned. Don't cut yourself off from your friends. Men, you got to have a couple of guys you're doing life with. In fact, this morning, I called the 3 guys that I'm doing life with. One's in Stockton, California, one's in Springfield, Missouri, and the other one's in Vallejo, California. And we laughed. And I said, you know, I've been through some stuff in life, and so have you. And to make sure we make it, we need to make sure that we connect with each other and we hold each other accountable. And one of them says, you know, just so we hold each other accountable and just so we continue to be real, he says, you know, Sam, he says, you know what my number one concern is right now? I go, what? He says, it's not whether or not I'll get the coronavirus. My number one concern is this. I'm retired, I have Social Security, and I don't want to lose my lifestyle. And we both laughed. He says, isn't that something? I said, yeah, but it's real. I said, and a lot of men feel the same way, and it's okay. And we laughed. We talked some more. We prayed together. But I have 3 men. I have 3 men in my life. We are committed to making sure we make it to the finish line to hear the words, well done. The first thing I learned and the first thing I did, and it was totally wrong, is I turned my back on my friends, and they couldn't get me out the house. I wouldn't talk to them on the phone. I just turned everybody loose. Here's another one. Don't give in to your fears. I gave in to my fears, and my fears controlled my life. Continue to spend time with the Lord. I think the number one thing I did right is I made myself get up in the morning and spend time with God. I laugh now because sometimes my prayer went something like this. Okay, God, here I am. And I just want to tell you one more time. I don't appreciate the way you're treating me. I don't think I deserve this. And now I fully understand the reason why you don't have a whole lot of good friends, because look at what I'm going through right now. See, it was all about me. And then I'd get up and say, okay, I'm done. And I'd go off like I was going to work. And you know what? I think God can handle that. I've never been a man to play games with God. I'm just honest. And I said, God, this is how your son feels. And he brought me through because he kept his promise, as he's going to keep his promise to each one of you. I had to learn to reach out to others in my need. I came to the realization after the fact that it won't last. And I'm telling you, my friends, I'm telling you, brothers, weeping may endure for a night, but the Bible says in Psalms, joy comes in the morning. This will not last. One day this is going to be behind us. And the question at that point will be this: how did you respond in the midst of the storm? I'm going to come back a little later in another one of my little conversations of hope with you and tell you another story about a man in the Bible and what he did when he was going through his season of hopelessness. Make sure you get proper rest. Make sure you get proper rest. Let me tell you something else. Don't panic. Don't panic. And the last thing I'll say to you is this. Remember what God said to you when everything was going great. You know, one day I was so depressed. Linda was driving me to the airport one day. And I don't even know where it came from. I don't know where it came from. And I looked at her and I said, and you know what? She says, what, baby? I said, and you never did like my mother. And she started laughing and says, where in the world did that come from? And I said, I don't know. It just seemed like the right thing to say in the moment. I'm here to tell you, God understands. He still has miracles in store for us. He's still in control. Yes, you're sitting there saying, yeah, but I don't have my job anymore. And I'm not sure where this is going to come from or that's going to come from. And somebody in my household has this virus, and now we're all quarantined together. And you're just going through a lot of stuff. My friends, I just want you to know you can make it. If God can bring me through those 3 horrible years, the nightmares, no money at Christmas to buy kids Christmas. And I had 3 teenage children. Car got repoed, getting paid 6 to 8 weeks late, took 3 pay cuts. Now, I don't care how you slice it, my friends. That was not a good time, but he brought me through. I'm here today to tell you, he is going to bring you through because he loves you. And you know what? He's the kind of God that's not going to let you drown. And I pray that God will give you strength. I pray that God will give you courage. I pray that you would develop a relationship with a few guys through the phone, through Zoom, through meeting out in the front yard of somebody's yard, 6 feet at least away from one another. And let God use you to encourage each other's hearts so that no one is standing in the midst of a parking lot talking to really a stranger, and you're sharing your heart, and your friend looks at you and says, I didn't know that. Don't let that happen to those that are around you. Be sensitive to your bride, those of you that are married. Be sensitive to your children. They're watching you. And may God give you the grace to come out on the other side without losing your courage. God bless you.